Hey guys, welcome to today's video. We are here to refilm a video that I filmed almost a year ago. I'm pretty sure it was August 2021. This is the If I Could Only Keep 10 eyeshadow palettes. This is the updated version. I did see my friend Emily from Emily's Makeup Bag. She did her updated version. That inspired me to do my updated version. So I'm going to have Emily linked down below. But I did look at my collection, which is always changing. I'm always adding, decluttering, changing palettes. And I do have 10 eyeshadow palettes here. I think there are 3 of them that are repeats and 7 new ones. And you know what? Give me a month, give me 2 months, give me 6 months, and this could be completely different again. But I thought it would be fun to go through today. If I lost all of my eyeshadow palettes, which ones would I want to repurchase? If you're new here, hello and welcome. My name is Kelly and I love all things makeup and beauty. I love talking, I love makeup, I love talking about makeup. So if you like to chat about makeup too, I would love to have you subscribe and be part of the K-Bella fam. But why don't we go ahead and jump into the video. Now these are not going to be in any particular order. I literally just have them sitting in front of me and I'm just gonna grab them and move them off to the side after we talk about them. So one of the palettes that I would definitely be keeping, okay, if I could only keep 10, is this one by Charlotte Tilbury. This was a Christmas gift from Smags and it's the Instant Eye Palette Smoky Eyes Are Forever. I think she has a few of these. This, I believe, is the newest one. And while the Charlotte Tilbury formula is not my favorite formula, I have formulas that I prefer more, I love the layout of this palette. I love how you have these trios. It's very easy if you're someone like me who kind of gets stumped with eyeshadow ideas. You know, if I have too many choices, I kind of get stumped. I need something that's like a little bit easier, a little bit more set out for me, and this really does it for me. But you can also mix and match. These work really nice together. I do think that the shimmers are beautiful. They're more of like almost a satin type of shimmer, so it's not going to give you like a ton of sparkle and a punch like some others that I'm going to talk about will. But this is great if you have textured eyes or just for a go-to every day. They're definitely pigmented. The mattes are super blendable and I love the color story, so definitely got to have this one in my collection. The newest eyeshadow palette to my collection that I would definitely want to keep caught me by surprise. It is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Nouveau palette. I originally was not going to get this one. I talked about it in like a will I buy it. I said I was going to pass on it. I kept seeing people's videos. YouTube made me buy it, sucked me in, but I actually do really enjoy this color story. I thought that it kind of looked boring in the pictures. It kind of looked like something that wasn't going to catch my eye, that wasn't something different, but part of me was intrigued because I have had a ton of ABH eyeshadow palettes in the past, and I just kind of wanted to like try it out and see what I thought about it. And I am into like olivey green tones, which you have several of those here. You have some neutrals. So I went out and picked this up. I do have a video on it. I definitely enjoyed this palette and it's the same. I've heard some people say that it's a different ABH formula and they feel like it's a little bit better. To me, it feels the same. It's the same ABH formula that I know and love. I'm glad that the packaging is not velvet to attract all of the dust and everything, but I really like this one for a good neutral. Now this one is a repeat, but it still stands true. A year ago I wanted to keep it in my collection. Now I want to keep it in my collection. Natasha Denona has some of my favorite eyeshadow formulas. I feel like they're really blendable. They're very creamy. The shimmers work nicely. I enjoy her cream to powder formula. And the Glam palette is just a great go-to. It's a great staple palette. I love to travel with it. I mean, I'm not traveling often because, you know, 9 months pregnant right now. But I do really enjoy taking this palette with me if I have like a wedding to go to or just even day to day for work. It's very quick. It's very easy. I love the quality of it and I would still need this one, even though it's a repeat. I believe last year in 2021 was when I tried Vieve Cosmetics eyeshadow palettes. First I got the Essential palette and I wasn't super impressed. I thought the mattes were great. The shimmers I felt like were very overwhelming. And then Jamie Genevieve came out with the Muse palette and I almost didn't get it. because I didn't love the first one, but I heard her say in her video that she reformulated her shimmers because she heard that people didn't like the shimmers in the old palette, the Essential palette, so she reformulated it, and I love this palette. I'm into the Rosy Color Story. I know it's a color story that a lot of people love right now. I feel like there are some unique shades with like Mystic, Source, Love. They're like these muted rosy tones that I enjoy. This Regal shade is beautiful. Divine is great for an everyday. It is matte heavy, whereas I prefer more of like, you know, an even amount of mattes and shimmers, but I still do really enjoy this palette, and I can create some really fun, beautiful, like soft romantic looks with it. So I would need this one in my collection. Another repeat is the Dominique Cosmetics Latte palette. Now, I did see that this palette was discontinued for a while, but then I think I saw online that they were like re-releasing it for a limited amount of time. I don't know why she discontinued it, but these three shimmers are some of my absolute favorite, especially this macchiato shade. It's like a bit of a taupier type of shade. I love it. I love the mattes. They're super creamy and blendable. This is a great like everyday go-to. If you love color, you have these pops of colors, but if you're a neutral lover like me, take this out and it's like a neutral lover's dream. So I love this palette. I loved it last year. I love it now. Going back to Natasha Denona, this is another eyeshadow palette that I was going to pass on. I almost didn't get, and it is the Natasha Denona Retro palette. So I saw this and I was like, no, I don't think that color story is for me. I think I'm gonna pass on it. And then Smegs had this palette and she was like, Kelly, I think you need to try it. I really think you would enjoy it. And she let me borrow hers, and now here we are. I really enjoy this shade Helio right here, this shade Jude. It's really the shimmers that stand out for me. I don't use a ton of these like deeper matte shades, but I really like Andy and Nude Mauve for the crease. I'm able to take Mod to kind of set my eyeshadow primer. Glitz is beautiful on the inner corner. Psychedelic is beautiful on the inner corner. This is a great palette that I was wearing it to work all the time. I was able to just kind of throw something in the crease, throw something on the lid, and go. I didn't have to think too much about it, and again, I love the Natasha Denona quality. I was very excited to get my hands on this next palette. I have been wanting to try Adept Cosmetics. They've been a brand that's been on my radar, but when my friend Heather Austin collaborated with them, she told me that they were gonna send me this palette. I would have purchased it even if they didn't send it to me, and this was my opportunity to try Adept Cosmetics, and I have not looked back. I love this eyeshadow palette. It's really the shimmers for me. I think the mattes are fine, but it's the shimmers that really stand out for me. Adept knows how to create their shimmers. Like, they're just so stunning, so beautiful, so like multi-chromatic. The way that they shift on the eyes. I can just take Atlas, throw it in the crease, and basically any one of these shimmer shades, and my look is stunning every single time. My daughter was looking at my eyeshadow palettes one time. I have them just on a bookshelf over here. She pulled this one out and she was like swatching it with her little fingers. I was trying not to hyperventilate because I didn't want her to like dig a finger in one and damage it, but she was swatching them and she was like, they're so beautiful, and she was swatching other palettes and she kept coming back to this one because y'all, the shimmers here are just so amazing. My last repeat palette will probably come as no surprise to anybody, but it's the Tiny Marvels palette by Sydney Grace in collaboration with Mel Thompson. I love this eyeshadow palette. I'm so glad that we still have a piece of Mel in the community, even though she has passed away. I still love this eyeshadow palette. It's not one that I reach for all of the time, but when I do want to create something fun and different, I do love reaching for this palette. Fire Butts is one of my absolute like favorite eyeshadows in my entire collection, all of my eyeshadow palettes, but I like that you can create beautiful, colorful, bold looks with this palette, but you can also keep it very like neutral as well, and that's what makes it so versatile. The Sydney Grace quality is amazing, and definitely keeping this one. Another palette and brand that was newer to me this year is Lunar Beauty. I had been wanting to try Lunar Beauty out, but a lot of the palettes that Manny was coming out with were more on the colorful side. That wasn't for me. I'm not really into a lot of the color. So when he came out with the Nude Prism palette, I was like, yes, this has my name written all over it. You have 2 rows of these beautiful matte shades. Any kind of undertone that you want. There are lighter mattes on the top, deeper mattes on the bottom. You even have a black, and then these beautiful shimmer shades. And although they kind of look similar when you're looking at them, if you actually swatch them, I mean, you can kind of see in the shift, they are different. They're not all the same. I'm not getting the same look every time I dip into this palette, but this is a great work palette for me because when I am getting ready for work, I just want to put one thing in my crease, I want to put one thing on the lid and go, and I don't want to have to think about it, and this palette really does it for me. The 10th and final palette that I would keep if I lost all of these palettes over here is another one by Natasha Denona. I told you I like her quality, but this one is pricey. It's the Metropolis palette. Now this palette, I feel like when you look at it, it looks like it's a very neutral palette, but you do also have tons of pops of color. You have these blues over here, you have deeper greens, you have a teal shade, you have these like bronzy golds. My only gripe with this palette is that there's not really any lighter shimmers. I kind of feel like all of these shimmers, all of these like gold and bronze shimmers, when I swatch them or when I use them on the eyes, they all give me kind of the same effect, and I wish there was one that was like a little bit lighter. But I do love reaching into this palette. I do love the formula. I love the cream to powders in here. I love these green shades especially. You can definitely get a nice neutral look, and then if you want to jazz it up with a pop of color, you can as well. But this palette was expensive. So although it's not like it's not even my favorite Natasha Denona palette, because of the price tag, I'm keeping this one. But that's gonna do it, y'all. These are the 10 palettes that as of today, when I am filming, that I would keep if I could only keep 10. I thought it was interesting to like look back at my video from last year, look at the palettes that I pick, reassess my collection, and pick out 10 more palettes. And to see that there were 3 repeats in there, I mean, it just goes to show that those are near and dear to my heart. But I would love to know, if you don't have a huge collection and you only have a handful of palettes, I would love to know in your collection, if you could only keep 1 or 2 or 3, like what are the eyeshadow palettes that are your favorites, your standouts, that you would just have to have in your collection? I want to know down below. But otherwise, if you did enjoy this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed before you go. That way I can see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.